Coming up on the Godly Conversations podcast. What would you choose if you were to be given this option, single and happy or married and miserable? It takes a healthy and wholesome human being that is single to get married and have a good marriage. You as a single person, first of all, that word single means whole. Singleness is not a disease to be cured. Singleness is not a problem to be solved. The aspect of being desperate is a real thing. When you have these pressures around you, it's going to want to make you desperate to be married, desperate to leave this season, desperate to waste this season. Release the shame. If you've been feeling ashamed that all your friends have been married, they have kids now, you go carry their kids, they're calling you, oh, uncle, auntie, and then in your heart you're like, oh God. Everybody is in a different season of life. Being single doesn't mean since I'm single, I can be promiscuous because I'm single. When I'm married, I will stop. Singleness is a season that is necessary, needed, and normal. Are there any lessons to learn as a single person? Are there things to do while single? Let's find it out in today's episode of the Godly Conversations. Hi, beloved viewer and listener. It is such a pleasure to have you watch today's episode of the Godly Conversation. And I am your host, Uwem. Today's episode is going to be exciting. It's going to be wonderful. And yes, it's something that is close to my heart. Singleness. Singleness. Of course, I am a single man. I'm not married yet. And then I have some thoughts around singleness that I really want to pour out. And of course, I know this will actually bless anyone that watches. Whether you're single, whether you're married, it doesn't matter. Or you don't even want to get married, or you just enjoy being single. It is going to be a blessing, and knowledge is not something to reject, of course, if it is healthy and good. There are some things that are really close to my heart that I want to share around today's episode, around this topic of singleness. First of all, as I do start the Godly Conversation podcast, today is a solo episode. So I will just ask you at the get-go, how are you? How are you feeling? I hope you're good. I hope your week is going well. I hope your heart is free. If you're having a heavy heart, I pray God lifts the weight on your heart and give you some peace. For me, I am excited. I'm excited about today's episode. So I'm about to go into it. I want to start with this point. Singleness is not a disease to be cured. Singleness is not a problem to be solved. But the problem we have and the reality of our society right now is that singleness has been made to look like a problem to be solved. And that is why a lot of single people feel like, oh, married people wants to pepper us. Or I'm like, yeah, I get the point, right? I get the point. I get where that is coming from with all the sexual frustration from the singles and all the lovey-dovey from the married people. And it makes the single kind of like, oh, I wish that was me. I get all of that. But then the point I really want to address is the fact that a lot of single people have been pressured to want to get married. And many others have been made to be desperate out here in the street to want to really just get married. And it is a problem because I see so many people talk about how to get the one, how to meet the one, how to do this, how to do that. And no one is talking about how can you be healthy and single. Or let me put it this way. How can you be single and healthy? Because it is about the aspect of that single, healthy human that matters. It takes a healthy and wholesome human being that is single to get married and have a good marriage. But if you keep talking about someone getting married when they are broken, then of course it buys into this idea of you need somebody to make you complete. Of course, that is not true. You as a single person, first of all, that word single means whole. In the book of Matthew, Jesus made an analogy and talked about if your eye is single. The word there, it means if your eye is whole, if your eye is good, then your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, is evil, which means it talks about as a single person, if your perception is wrong, if your mindset is wrong, if everything about you is not wholesome, your decisions are not going to be wholesome. Because a bad perception will lead to bad decisions. A wholesome perception will lead to wholesome and good decisions. You get it? So when we emphasize much more about single people trying to run out of singleness and get married, we are making singleness look like a problem that everybody needs to run out of this place. But the reality is, what would you choose if you were to be given this option? Single and happy, or married and miserable? Would you choose married and miserable? No, I would choose single and happy. Definitely. All day. I would choose single and happy. And the reality is that a lot of married people wish they were single. While we also have the other side of single people wishing they are married. Why? Because the single people that are wishing they are married have not been told you can be healthy and be single and be whole and not be desperate and be disciplined and so much good things about your singleness. Because your singleness is not a problem. Your singleness is a season. Ecclesiastes talks about the fact that there is time for everything on earth. There is time and season. Of course, we have the summer and we have the winter. And the reality is that you cannot expect the experience of summer in winter. Can you? You cannot also expect the experience of winter in summer. There are two different experiences, but when the summertime comes, embrace it. Go out there, go to the sun, go to the beach, whatever thing you want to do with the summer season, do it and enjoy the season. Soak yourself into that season. And when it is winter, soak yourself into that winter season and enjoy the season. Enjoy the cold that comes with it. So it is, and there are things that are done in each of these seasons when it comes to agriculture and planting. You plant when the rain falls, and then when it's dry season, the time for harvest has come. So your single season is a time of preparation, is a time of planning, is a time of you becoming whole, building. It's a building season so that you can reap and harvest. Agriculturally speaking, if you plant on time and on a good soil, definitely you're going to reap a good harvest. So when it comes to life, singleness is a season. And it is a beautiful season. And that is what I want to tell every single person like me, that you embrace this singleness. This is the time you have to be with yourself. When you are married, let me tell you, you will not have that time again for yourself like you do. Ask any married person. When you're married, you not take care of yourself like you would want to, because you have responsibilities. Yes, marriage is exciting. Yes, marriage is beautiful if you get it right. But the reality is that if you don't plan well, if you don't use your single season well, you end up regretting the fact that you rushed and was desperate to be married, and you got married, and now you are sad, miserable, and everything is just like, I made a mistake, and you wish you were single. I don't pray that should be your position. And if you're a married person, that is your position, maybe you've already gotten into a situation and then you ended up divorced. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sorry you had to experience that, because I know it is difficult. I know it is hard. So life itself is not easy. Can we just be honest? Life itself doesn't come easy. So we are not trying to say, oh, this is get married so that your life will become easy, or stay single so that your life will become easy. There are difficulties in each season of life. Just like using the analogy of seasons, the summer season has its own difficulties. Same with the winter season. It has its own particular and specific difficulties. So then you have to embrace each of the difficulties, embrace the season, and learn. And when it comes to life as a single person, one thing I know for myself is that when I'm married, my experience of singleness, if I did not enjoy it to the fullest, I will never get it back. I can never get back the season I wasted in singleness. So if you are single and you're wasting your season of singleness, desperate to get married, just waiting for someone to come pick you off as if you are sick, so you need a doctor to come heal you by getting married, you need to embrace this season, because this is the season to build. This is the season to discover yourself. This is the season to build that career as a woman, as a man. This is the season to run after your destiny. This is the season to plan. This is the season to travel. This is the season to read. This is the season to learn. This is the season to take notes about, okay, if you have a desire to marry, because reality is that not everyone that is single wants to get married. And of course, I know there are nuances around that. Some people who are single and they don't want to marry, I could get the aspect of like, some of them have experienced some hurts, maybe fears of like seeing their families, broken family, dysfunctional families, and they're like, if this is what marriage looks like, I don't think I want this. And some may have seen some of their friends that are married or something like that, and they're like, I don't think I even want to marry, because if this is what marriage looks like, I don't want this. And married people, on the other hand, have it as a mission. I don't know if it's just an African thing, but they have a mission of like, oh, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? What is going on? What are you waiting for? Did I tell you I have a problem? Did I tell you I have any issue? I'm not waiting for anything. I'm building. I'm planning. I'm living. I'm not miserable. I'm not indisciplined. You know, that is why I actually debunked this idea when they said that you have to marry to be responsible. And I said, no. There is a lot of people that are married and are very irresponsible. They are not responsible at all. And marriage does not make anyone responsible. But this is what I came to. Marriage gives you responsibilities. And some of those responsibilities you may not have known if you did not take time to prepare before you got into marriage. That is why some people get into marriage and did not prepare for the experiences. And when they get there, it's almost like those things are taking them by surprise. And like, was I supposed to do this also? Oh, was I supposed to be this patient with my wife? Was I also supposed to do this for this man? Was I supposed to do this and that and the third? So it's difficult right now. I don't think I was prepared for this. I think I need to leave this place. Now you see that marriage doesn't make you responsible. Responsible people should get married. Responsible adults should get married. Irresponsible people should mind their business. And that does not mean that people that are single are irresponsible. No, they have responsibilities of themselves. But marriage is an added responsibility. So it doesn't mean anybody that chooses to be irresponsible, definitely it's a choice. We all have the freedom of choice, the freedom to choose. I choose discipline, to discipline my body physically, to discipline myself in focusing on my career and focusing on building, and to discipline myself in other areas. Someone else can decide to choose what they choose, and you cannot unchoose their choice. So it is real. This is just real life. I hope this is exciting, and I hope this is blessing you and informative. If it is, let me know in the comments what you think about today's episode. And if you are yet to subscribe to this YouTube channel, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're yet to follow on Spotify, hit the follow, and then let's keep on going. Many people get married and then they did not expect the experiences that they got to have. And marriage get to stretch them, and then some of them get broken, like some of them break. Because once they exceed their elasticity limit, they just break off and be like, I can't do this again. So that is why I think it's very important that before you get married as a person, you should really be, thoughtful about it. You should be prepared for it, and you should be ready for what you're going to face. This is the reality for me. When I was younger, I really wanted to get married. And there were reasons I wanted to get married, right? I didn't really see a good picture of marriage done well. And I'm a relationship person. I love relationship. So, and I love that human connection. I was like, I'm going to get married very early. I wanted to be married by 25. So I planned, I said by 25, I'm going to marry early and all of that. Well, as God would have it, my life, I live my life telling God, let your will be done. So I didn't have the resources to marry when I was 25. And I'm like, okay. So I thought my life would go in this straight line of like, I'm born, I'm a child, I'm going to school, finish my secondary school, do university. And after university, I will find a job. And after getting a job, I will get married and have children. And what next? Train my children. And what next? Retire from my job. And what next? Maybe see grandchildren and die. My purpose wasn't really factored in. My mind was just, of course, they keep teaching growing up that just go and get married, man. You go get a job so that you can get the wife. So I was just focused on like, doing the normal way, because that's the flow of life naturally, like I see people do. And I also thought that way, and I really wanted to get married. One of the reasons was I wanted to do it differently, and I had in mind to do it differently. Of course, I still have marriage desires, and I want to do it differently. That's why I'm even waiting longer now. I couldn't do it then because I didn't have the resources to marry and all of that. But then God actually helped me that I did not get married then. I just have to be real and tell you that had it been married as at when I wanted to marry when I was 25, maybe I may not make it, because my mindset has been like, if this thing is difficult, I'm going to back out. Like, if I get married and it's difficult, I know I'm a man, because I'm not going to be abusive. I don't want to be toxic to my wife. But if it's something that we cannot handle it, I'm just going to back out. That was a mindset. But then I saw how God allowed things not to work the way I thought it would, so that I would get married. And then he has used this season of me not marrying to redefine me, change me, work on me, help me see that I had a lot of unresolved trauma from my brokenness. If you've watched my video about the sexual molestation that I experienced and, some addictions that I fell into, you would understand that if I carried all those baggage into marriage, wow, that woman will be pitied. I don't really know. I don't know if she'll be able to take it. I don't know if we would be able to make it, because as much as I'm not a bad person, but then being a good person at heart alone doesn't mean that I'm going to have a good marriage. Because if I have brokenness and baggages that I carry into the marriage, they are going to affect the institution. They are going to affect me and affect us, because we have chosen to be one. So God had to make me realize that my single season had a purpose. Because right now, having to walk through this trauma and unravel this trauma and strip some of this pain out of my heart and out of my body, I'm now seeing things a little bit clearly, right? I'm now seeing why I should get married and how I want to do it. I'm now coming to a place of, I want to be more vulnerable and transparent. I want to be a man that is comprehensive, not just a man that is masculine, tough man, I don't cry, men don't cry, and all of that. I'm like, guy, if it gets to a place of being emotional and crying, I'm going to cry. And most times in my relationship, I found myself in places that have been really, really emotional, like just pouring out my heart. And it's beautiful. It's not easy. It is beautiful. But one thing I realized is that I feel like I was created for the difficult things, because I love having even the difficult and uncomfortable conversations. I love being vulnerable at this stage of my life, and it's fun for me. It's not the same story for everybody, right? So singleness is not a season that you are going to waste, or you should waste just waiting for someone to come pick you off and be like, oh, you've been single all this while, let's help you out. Get a wife or get a husband, and you walk out desperate. And this episode is me telling you, release the shame. Release the shame. If you've been feeling ashamed that all your friends have been married, all the people you grew up with are married, they have kids now. You go carry their kids, they're calling you, oh, uncle, auntie. You're like, yeah. And then in your heart, you're like, oh God, what is this? You have to stand up and release the shame. There's no shame about it. Everybody is in a different season of life. And life is in seasons. There is time for everything. And you have to adopt that and tell yourself, this is your time not to waste. it's your time to build, to plan. You could be building yourself. You could be building a business. You could be building a career, whatever thing it is. As much as you're single right now, make sure that it is not a wasted season, because it's not a disease to be cured. It is not a problem to be solved. It is a season to be embraced. It is necessary. It is needed. It is normal. You have to embrace all of it. Let me tell you, if you don't embrace your single season, you cannot even embrace your marriage. Because a lot of people stay in their single season with an arrival mentality. Let me explain what I mean by arrival mentality and the error of arrival mentality. It is the aspect of somebody waiting and be like, when I marry, I will be happy. When I meet the one, in quote, I'll be free. I'll be happy. I'll be more joyful. I'll be more bright. I won't be carrying this heavy heart. I won't be this moody again. Who tell you you'll be that? Who told you that? You just thinking that. And when you get there, because it feels like you're expecting something to happen outside, like something external to happen to make you happy. Maybe when you do the marriage, look, don't allow the fantasy of thinking about the marriage and the ceremony to make you get to embrace, when I get married, I'll be happy. And when you get there, you're not actually happy because you're expecting your spouse to make you happy. And at that point, you're putting on undue pressure on your marriage and it cannot flow well. You should be happy right now. You should find yourself right now. You should be free right now. You should be excited. I'm shouting, right? Come to a moment of like, I'm so excited. I'm living a happy life. Like, that is the life I'm embracing. I'm a very happy single man. Do I have need for human connection in terms of, do I want to get married? Yes, I want. Not everybody has a desire to get married. I know. But for me, I want to get married, but I'm not desperate to get married. I want to do it right. So I'm taking notes about things concerning how I want to be married and my wife, and how I want to take care of my wife, and the kind of husband I want to be, and all of that. But then I'm not allowing that to make me waste my single season waiting to be married. No, I'm using my single season well, spending my time researching, coming to sit on this podcast and talking, and feeling like I'm making an impact. Maybe I'm touching someone's life, a younger man or anyone, maybe older person, and I hope this makes sense, and I hope this blesses someone, and I enjoy to do it. Wow, then I'm happy. And if I have opportunity to eat good, I go out and buy some things and prepare my meal and eat good. So like, it is just about being happy, because the reality is that if you have an arrival mentality of like, when I get there, I'll be happy, you will not be happy. You will get there and expect things to make you happy, expect your husband or wife to make you happy, and they cannot. So they were not meant to do that. You should erase that arrival mentality and embrace your season. You've seen your friends, you grew up with them and everything, and they are married. Thank God for them. Be very happy for them. Be very happy for the stage of life they are in, and then make an introspection to look at your life. What do you really want for yourself? What kind of marriage do you want when you're going to get married? What kind of life do you want to build? You can't be miserable as a single person and want to get married. You'll be a miserable married person because you're getting married out of some pressure. So release that shame. Release the pressure of somebody telling you, maybe it might even be your parents. They love you actually, and they feel like if they don't push you to get married, you may never get married. But being a single person myself, I understand the aspect of the fact that some people don't really get the struggle that single people go through around getting married, and especially with resources. I've been having some conversations, which I'm not going to repeat here, with my friends, about the fact that if you're coming from a wealthy family, you're not going to be bothered about the money to get married. All you will be worried or thinking about is finding the right person to be married to. Right? And as a woman, you're not going to be bothered about marrying someone because they have some money. All you're thinking about is marrying someone because they can take care of you, because they have your interests at heart, because they are good people, because they are the right fit for you. So release the pressure. Don't allow anybody to put a pressure on you. They're not the ones that are going to live with the spouse. You're the one that is going to live with whoever you choose. So it's better you take your time, heal, make your analysis, trust God, depend on God, and then get to this aspect. So that once you get married, you know that you made that decision. You made that choice. So release yourself and be you. And be yourself. I'm going to move on by saying, Paul Apostle, when I read 1 Corinthians chapter 7, I love Paul. He's a radical human being. But then Paul was almost like endorsing singleness. Per time. If you read 1 Corinthians 7, I want you to do that. Maybe take time and read. Somehow, if you're not really understanding why Paul is saying the things he's saying, you might think, Paul, are you endorsing singleness because you're single? Because a lot of people say that Paul was single all his life. But then he's not endorsing singleness because he's single. He was endorsing singleness not to exalt it above marriage, but to say whether you're married or you're single, you are in your season. Whether you get to marry or you don't get to marry, it's not a sin. You are good. Marriage is not a law that God says, if you do not marry, you're going to hell. God didn't say that. God wouldn't say that. So you can't let someone like pressure you like you need to get married. I know the aspect of like there are a lot of single people who, because of all this messaging around the culture, they are really being put under pressure or being made to feel bad for being single, or being made to feel like something is off in their life because they've been single, or maybe nobody ever asked you out and you're like, is it, you're looking at yourself, you start having bad body image, lack of self-worth and everything because nobody ever asked you out. And if they ever asked you out, they've never like shown interest like they want to marry you. So is it like you're just good for dating and then somebody wants you to just sleep with you and have your body and all of that, and then they're not really like interested to marry you? If God hasn't given you the gift of singleness, like Paul said, I pray you find the right spouse. And I pray you're not desperate, but I pray you're contented with God so that it will lead you to the right person. And you're not under pressure, but you are working purposefully to meet your spouse. That's my prayer for you. If you have a gift of marriage, you'll be like, I don't have this gift of singleness. It is not in my diary. Talking about Paul is like, imagine that it's an election and you're voting for singleness and marriage. Paul, every time he wants to vote, he presses his thumb on singleness. When they ask him, what are you advising the younger single women? He says, I endorse singleness. Be single. What do you say to the younger men? Be single. Let me just read that 1 Corinthians and show you what I mean there. And why would Paul even do that? Like, why would Paul endorse singleness like that? When we come to our culture and they're like endorsing, okay, get married. What are you waiting for? You're wasting that woman's time, or you're wasting that man's time, or you're not in my situation. We love. I'll just jump through some verses as I read. Verse 1. Now regarding the questions you asked in your letter, yes, it is good to live a celibate life. This is what Paul said in verse 1 of 1 Corinthians chapter 7. They asked him about being single. He said, it is very good to live a celibate life as a single person. But because there is so much sexual immorality, which is talking about fornication, each man should have his own wife and each woman should have her own husband. The place that Paul gives a caveat and says, I would prefer you get married and have your own wife to avoid fornication. To avoid fornicating around. If you don't have self-control, it's better you get married. Now, I will jump down to verse 6. I say this as a concession, not as a command. But I wish everyone were single, just as I am. Paul saying that. But God gives to some the gift of marriage and to others the gift of singleness. So it's not everybody that has a gift of singleness. Some people have. And what is this gift of singleness? It is your ability to stay and be self-controlled. And then you're not burning with passion to want to just have this sex. And I know there's a lot of people who feel like self-control is not a thing that is in their dictionary. They can never do that. But I will go to that, which why you need to even learn that as a single person. Because you should not just get married because you want to fulfill your passion. That was what I knew growing up, that, to get this sex thing out of the way, let me get married early so that I will get to have the sex because my body wants it. Of course, the Bible talks about it. It is a juvenile season. What my body craves for as a young person, it is what every young person seeks. It is not because it is bad. So nobody should ever make you feel bad that you are having urge, that you're feeling like having sex, that you have a desire to have sex, you have a desire to go down on someone or whatever. Anyways, the desire isn't bad. It is the fact that you know that even though you have that healthy sexual desire, you're not supposed to engage in it, to honor your body and to honor your partner's body if you are in a relationship, and to honor God most importantly. Because the Bible says, honor now God with your body, if you read from chapter 6. So chapter 7 is a continuation of Paul advising against fornication. And it's like, it is good to be single. It is good to be celibate. It is good to keep yourself. But then if you know you cannot keep yourself and you are prone to falling and fornicating, go get your wife. Go get your husband. And then he says, I wish everybody were as single as I am. Then I'm going to continue. So I say to those who aren't married and to widows, it is better to stay unmarried, just as I am. But if they can't control themselves, they should go ahead and marry. It is better to marry than to burn with lust. Of course, this is the part about self-control that it says, if you know you can't keep yourself again, bro, get married. I'm going to jump to this verse 25. Now, regarding your question about the young women who are not yet married, I do not have a command from the Lord for them, but the Lord in his mercy has given me wisdom that can be trusted, and I will share it with you. Let's listen to Paul's wisdom here. Because of the present crisis, I think it is best to remain as you are. Remain as you are, as in what? Remain single. He says, my best advice, I just said it. Paul is like, they brought these two things to election to be voted for, marriage and singleness. Paul keeps saying, I vote singleness. But for some reasons, that's when I would tell you, okay, go get married. But me, I vote singleness because he is trying to say, not to exalt singleness above marriage, but he's trying to say there's so much benefit in your single season. I feel like that is a message we should get from it. There's so much you can get from being single. And of course, in the later time, as before I round off this episode, I'm going to talk about why he was even saying that. Why he was saying that he endorses this singleness. If you have a wife, do not seek to end the marriage. If you do not have a wife, do not seek to get married. What is Paul saying? Don't seek to get married. But if you do get married, it is not a sin. And if a young woman gets married, it is not a sin. However, those who get married at this time will have troubles. And I am trying to spare you those problems. Paul is not trying to scare anybody and say, don't get married. But let's be real, right? There is a lot of things about marriage that poses as problems. And let me just start with the aspect of, if you don't have enough finances to take care of yourself and really be able to take good care of another person. Because I've seen so many people like suffer. You're married and suffering. And it's crazy. It's crazy. You don't have that enough resources. It's better you just pray to God, believe God, trust God, build, so that you can be able to get married and be able to take care of things. Of course, we trust God for favor. We trust God that when you get married and God is going to bless you, he that finds a wife has found a good thing. But also be realistic. And this is not the topic for today, but I'm just talking about singleness. From where Paul came from, he's saying, those that are married in this time, we have a lot of issues and problems. And he meant it. And it didn't start today. In terms of the brokenness of the human condition, people's brokenness, which they bring to marriage as, baggages. People's past traumas that show up in their marriage and they start becoming abusive and toxic to their spouse inside marriage. the husband beats the wife because of the trauma of him saying his dad beat his mom, or something that happened and he couldn't deal with his ego and pride, and is now feeling like he needs to suppress a fellow adult. Because even fighting with an adult, this is the same person that if he's in the office or amongst his friend would offend him, he will not say, "I will pick a fight with you." Come on. I know there are some people like that who wants to pick a fight, but they can't pick a fight when they know that their friend can actually beat them because I think they are smart. But then, why do you pick a fight with your wife at home? Because maybe she responded to you when she's an adult that you both can engage in conversation. So you see that the brokenness of people has caused them to come to a place of, I need to control you. I need to tame you. I need to shut that mouth up. I need to put you in your place. Who told you that is the way? Who told you need to put anyone in their place? Get to your own place and sit. Anyways, that felt like I'm really, really passionate. This day, we see couples killing each other. Paul says, wow, if you get it wrong, it's going to be hell. It is going to be difficult. So I recommend, if you want to stay single, stay single. And in my own words, what I would recommend is, if you want to stay single till you meet the one that you know God has sent for you, your God sent, stay single till you meet that one. Don't let the pressure, societal pressure, and the shame, and all, whatever name they might want to call you, don't let that push you to be desperate to want to get married. That is going to be a difficult place to put yourself in. Let me get to this. Singleness does not mean lonely. Single doesn't mean lonely. Now, I'm going to go to a popular scripture that we know in the Bible. I know this most times is applied to men, but we also have females, our sisters, who are really single also, and they seek this connection, this companionship and everything, because if God gives you a desire for marriage, you also put those sexual desires and the need for companionship in you. So, but then that doesn't mean because you have the desires that you need to satisfy the desires, and maybe as single, you're like, this sexual tension, let me go to date so that I can get it off. You're not supposed to be sleeping with your partner that you're dating because you're not married. Even when you're dating, you're still single until you're married. So, of course, that's why there's nothing like dating in the Bible, so that people will not presuppose that when you date, you can have sex. Because people try to do in dating what they should do in marriage. The only reason that dating is accepted, that even me, I accept dating, is so that you can have the time to actually inspect the fruit in the person you are dating. Inspect their life and have the time to be up close and see a lot of things to know, to ascertain if you really want to go ahead with this person or not. It is not a season to do everything you're supposed to do in marriage, get to sleep with the person, cook for him, wash his clothes, and all of that. You don't need all of those. Communicate. Talk. You don't need to do marriage roles in dating. The aspect of being lonely, some people feel like because they have loneliness, they need to get married. That singleness is a problem. Singleness is not a problem if you're feeling lonely. That might sound odd, like, so what do you mean? Singleness is not a problem. I know how lonely I feel. I want to acknowledge the fact that sometimes it can feel lonely. But if you feel like marriage will cure your loneliness, I'm sorry, it will not. Marriage might actually enhance your loneliness, because you might feel when I get married, I'm not going to be lonely again. And then your partner is a busy person. And then you want to be an understanding partner. And then you feel more lonelier because now all your friends that used to check up on you cannot check up on you as much as they used to when you were single. And now you are alone and lonely. So now in this place that you start becoming a nagging wife or a nagging husband. I'm not saying partners shouldn't give each other attention. It's something that is needed in a healthy marriage. But then, marriage is not meant to cure your loneliness. That's just the point I'm trying to make. So if you feel that being lonely is caused by singleness, I will tell you that it's just a product of living. As long as you are living on earth, there will be moments you feel lonely. And that is why you have friends. So as single, you can have good circle of friends you talk to and you talk with. And you engage, pour out your heart, and be free. I have such friends and we keep each other. They are beyond friends to me now. They are my brothers in the Lord. And my sisters in the Lord that I can talk to, and then I can share. I can be open with them because as I am single, I need friends. I need companionships so that I will not feel like my loneliness needs a cure of marriage. Of course, I know a lot of people are not able to be vulnerable and transparent with friendships. Why? Because there's so much that happens in our society, and a lot of people feel like, how can I be vulnerable when this person is not trusted? Because I have trust issues, I cannot trust this person. So people cannot be as transparent as they would want to be, so that they can get their business out there and get their heart, pour out their heart to someone. And that is why someone might wait and be like, till I meet my partner, then I'll be able to like really pour out my heart to the person. Yeah, I get that point. But there are a lot of married people who can't even like share and be vulnerable and be transparent with their partners. Crazy work, crazy thing. It's not supposed to be that way anyways. If you're single like me, loneliness and being alone are two separate things. Most times you need that solitude to think clearly, to go through some introspective things, to go deep into yourself. And if you feel like you finding solitude, you shouldn't live in solitude actually. But if you feel like finding a solitary place to just be alone is a problem, then it is a bigger thing that you need to unveil from deep within. It might be there's an unresolved trauma, there's an abandonment issue, there's an anxious attachment issue, and there's some other issues that you have trauma-wise that you need to unveil and unseat and upset. Because if you don't unseat these things, your alone time could look like, I don't like being alone. And if you see someone that loves being alone, it would look like you are insecure that they can be alone. You feel like it's a problem. It's not a problem. You should learn how to be alone. Have an alone time. Jesus, our example, most of the time, he would withdraw from the disciples and go to a solitary place, a lone place, a place that he can be alone. What does he do in a solitary place? To pray, to commune with the Father, to do some of his inner work, his self-work. That doesn't mean he was lonely. He was not. He had company of his friends. He had company of his disciples who were with him. So never for one should you see being alone and lonely as the same thing. And neither should you relate singleness as being lonely. In singleness, you are alone. You are on your own. You don't have a partner in your space, and that is fine. You have friends, you have circle of friends that you should build, that you talk to, you talk with, and it is okay. You're not sick. You're not about to just jump on the next trend of someone that comes to say, I want to marry you. No, from the first time I looked at you, your face was glittering. You were glowing, and it made my heart jump. And the baby in me leaped. The butterfly in me was awakened. You don't need somebody to come start throwing lines on you. And then the next person that just came to throw lines and you're like, well, I've met my husband. You need to take your time. And so, okay, I've heard all the lines you've thrown. It's actually interesting to listen to. But then, let me get to know you. Let me get to know who you are. Let me get to see you better than just, this best foot that you put forward. Because everybody wants to meet someone and they put their best foot forward. And after a while, the best foot start withdrawing and the wrong foot start showing up. So when God talked to Adam, he said it's not good for a man to be alone. When he talked about a man, of course, since Eve was in Adam, we can also say even Eve was a part of that a man, because it was man and woman, it was human. Adam he had Eve in him. So God said it's not good for a man to be alone. And what happened? This was when Adam was single. Then the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him. Now, why did God say it's not good for him to be alone? Because he had a purpose to fulfill. He had work to do. And God says, now that you are in line with your purpose, I'll bring a helper, a suitable help to walk along with you so that you can have company in fulfilling destiny. That feels like something great. So the Lord God formed from the ground all the wild animals and all the birds of the sky. He brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And the man chose the name for each one. He gave names to all the livestock, all the birds of the sky, and all the wild animals. But still, there was no helper just right for him. Adam did not call the chimpanzee, my wife, you're the bone of my bones. Adam did not call the monkey, oh, I feel like I've made my own person. Look, the next person that shows up shouldn't mean you just jump on the train and be like, maybe this might be my last choice. It is better to be single and happy than to be married and miserable. I relate with the frustrations. I relate with every other feeling. Of course, God made Eve for Adam. God saw that Adam did not choose for himself. He waited on God in a single season, and God decided to put him to sleep when it was not of his own doing. God is saying, I'm putting you to sleep to let you know I'm going to do this for you. That's why the Bible says a good wife is a gift from the Lord. Houses and riches are inheritance from parents. So it means, let me allow God to do it his way. Because maybe God would allow me try it my way for some time until I try all my options. I'm like, God, I think I don't know what to do again. And then God says, okay, now that you surrender, let me do it my way. Now that you acknowledge me in all your ways, I'm going to help you. Let me give you the gift I have for you. And God gave Adam the gift he had for him, putting him to sleep and bringing Eve out of Adam, forming Eve, this beautiful creature, this beautiful woman. And Adam said, wow, what? He's like, hey, that's my wife. Oh, so beautiful. With this, it's me saying, don't let loneliness make you choose someone. The next thing I want to talk about is the elephant in the room. In your singleness, the elephant in the room is that sexual connection, intimacy. Of course, Paul talked about it. For you not to fornicate, then get married. The elephant in the room is not wanting to fornicate. That's why people want to rush to get married. I don't want to fornicate. So, like, okay, let me go get married. I don't want to fall a victim. Okay, let me go get married. And one thing I learned is that self-control would not be a thing if you were never able to say no to your desires. If you're never able to say no to your cravings. Just like you crave a particular food and you're like, the doctor told me not to eat this food, so I'm going to be disciplining about this. I'm not going to eat this food. And now your body craves for sex. Somebody just touching you. Please just hug me from the back. And you're like, I would really love that. I'd really love something to just hold me from the back. I don't want much, just a hug. And sometimes it's just that connection that we need, right? I know you want more than that. I know you want the deep kiss, French kiss and all. But the reality is, delayed gratification is a beautiful thing to actually think about and embrace in your single season. I know there are some people that might be like, I want to try these things out in my singleness. I want to try sex out and try other things out while I'm single so that when I'm married, I will know how to rock my wife. I will know how to, treat a man. I can't marry a virgin because they'll be boring. That's just your thoughts. You feel like if you do it your way, that will be best for you, then right on. But if you say you are a child of God, then you have to follow God's principles. It's like God saying, test and see that the Lord is good. Have you tested God? Like test, not like T-E-S-T. It is T-A-S-T-E. Test, like you are testing food. Test and see that the Lord is good. Have you tried testing God? Like somebody would be like, have you tried this meal? And it's a very wonderful meal. You've never tried it before and you get to try it. And be like, wow, this meal's so good. So have you tested God in this area, you've not tested God, and you're making a resolve from ignorance that you know what is best. Maybe you've heard someone say, when you get married, it's good. God meant it so that you explore your sexual life, you and your spouse, with freedom in your heart, with no shame, being alone, being naked with each other. Yes. And then you get to explore everything you want to do, you and your partner, without being informed by porn, without having to have all this information kind of wreck your mind. But you have the right thinking, and you have the right values. You honor your wife's body, your wife honors your body, and then you both can learn, uncover, explore together. But being single is not that time to explore your body. I feel like being single is at that time to explore your mind, to explore your thinking, to go deep into self-discovery, to go deep into pushing for your purpose, to go deep into other things that will make for a wonderful life when you are a married person, if you want to marry, and if you want to remain single and God has given you the grace, because being single doesn't mean since I'm single I can be promiscuous because I'm single. When I'm married I will stop. One thing I told myself some time ago is the fact that the discipline I built in my singleness will actually help sustain my marriage. I told myself that, and I realized it's true, because most people that get to mess up in their marriage, they carry that baggage from their singleness. They didn't just mess up in their marriage for nothing. They carried the baggage from when they were single. And of course, they told themselves the same old story: when I get married, I'm going to change. Change, as much as it is constant, it's not easy. Especially with something you enjoy doing. And especially with something that has been a pattern in your life. You're promiscuous, you're infidel, you're walking around, sleeping with people, going to hotels, having one-night stands, doing all sort of things, and you just got married and feel like, what changes you? Marriage? Or your wife? So now you blame her, is because this has happened to you, that's why I'm going to sleep around, or your breast is not the way I used to look at it. You should factor it in that something I think about, I know this is deep, like, it's more graphical, right? But I feel like it will be helpful for someone. I tell myself, I'm single, I'm not married yet, but I tell myself that I know that when I get married and my wife gets pregnant, which I will impregnate her, and then she gives birth to our baby, our body's not going to be the same. Yeah. I know. I tell myself that. And I am informing myself now to desensitize that shock of like, this is not how you used to look. Of course, she's not going to look the way she used to look. And I caused it. So if we need to have a change, I will work with her to arrive at the change. But if I don't discipline myself and learn in my singleness, I might get to marriage and be shocked about so many things. So I'm saying singleness is a season that you can learn so much. It's not a season to be naive about marriage if you want to marry and say when we get to that bridge we'll cross. No. Get to learn everything about that bridge. The weaknesses you see in other people's marriages, learn it and know to not repeat. So that you will not use your baggage of infidelity and your baggage of promiscuity to tell your wife it's because your breast is not shooting again. That's why I had to move out on you. And just you hurt her and you add some illicit pleasure and you feel good about yourself now. This is me stepping on some toes. Yes, I'm really pressing it really hard. This is not meant to actually make you feel bad, but it's meant to make you see reasons to do better. And if you are single, it's meant to make you see reasons to choose better, to choose discipline, to choose God's way. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 22. Of course, this is the godly conversation. So I'm always in my Bible. I'm going to read this Bible and then we learn. Run from anything that stimulates youthful lusts. Instead, pursue righteous living, faithfulness, love, and peace. Enjoy the companionship of those who call on the Lord with pure hearts. It says, enjoy the companionship of those who call on the Lord with pure hearts. Of course, I talked about as a single person having a good circle. Having a circle that holds you accountable. Having a circle, you can't say, I want to be someone that is, celibate, and then you're working with people that tell you about their sexual experiences. Oh, last night, wow, wow, wow. You don't need that company. That's not your company. You need company of people that tell you, wow, this journey is really, really difficult. And this is what I experienced yesterday. I was so frustrated. I almost masturbated. I almost fell back to watching porn. And you're like holding each other accountable and be like, yeah, it's not easy, but it's worth it. You get, that's the kind of company you need. You don't need a company that are opposite of you. You need a company that is similar, walking the same path with you. People that pursue righteousness, love, righteous living, and everything like from that scripture. But what did he say you should run from? Youthful lust. What is natural to youthfulness? What is natural is, as a single person, your body wants to have sex. It says run away from that. That's Joseph for you. Joseph would have slept with Potiphar's wife and maybe even get away with it. But he would actually abuse his body and lose his destiny. He would abuse his body with Potiphar's wife and defile Potiphar's marriage bed, and then get to lose his destiny because he didn't even know what was ahead of him. God even showed him that after you overcome this temptation, you're going to be thrown into jail, but after 2 years of the jail, you're going to become the prime minister in Egypt. He didn't see it. So don't make it look like it's because he saw his future, he knew what was ahead of him. No, he knew that making the right decision step by step will lead him to the future that God has prepared for him. And many people miss God because they have actually made a mess of their singleness, and they get married and the baggage they carried join them to their marriage, and they make a mess of their marriage home, and they are not ready to really take responsibility and be like, I caused all of this, I need help. Yes, prayer is good, but after praying, you need help. You need therapy. You need to go for workshops to work out a lot of things. So for you not to pick too many things, wrong patterns, and this is what I tell myself. That's why I want to be single and disciplined, so that I will not pick up baggages that are going to affect my union with my wife. I can't be hurting an innocent soul. And as a man also, I don't want her picking up baggages, which I'm praying to God to give me a good one, that is going to hurt my innocent soul. Yes, I know we are going to do hurtful things that are going to hurt each other, and not to the extent of, the baggage and things we decided not to deal with being the issue. This is more easier said than done, but it's worth doing. The aspect of being desperate is a real thing. When you have these pressures around you, it's going to want to make you desperate to be married, desperate to leave this season, desperate to waste this season, desperate to stay worrying in your singleness. And the reality is, you should tell yourself, I will be content. And I will be content in every circumstance. We sing that song and we don't take cognizance of the fact that it said every circumstance. It didn't say in good circumstance. It says in every. In my singleness, I'll be content. When I'm married, I'll be content. Paul said in Philippians 4, I've learned how to be content in every season of my life. Like me paraphrasing. When I have much or I have less, I know how to abound and to abase. Like I am a contented person. And one thing I said, which I wrote down, is that contentment will always wear out desperation. And if you embrace that in this single season, it's going to really help your life. Contentment will always wear out desperation. The need to be desperate, your being content will wear it out naturally. Natural death. It may not go away, but it will wear out that desperation out of you. So learn contentment. I've talked about discipline. I've talked about contentment. I've talked about not repeating, not having patterns that are going to affect your future, which is the thing about the discipline. And the last thing is what Paul really said to the Corinthians when he talked about why he's really voting for singleness. Like I vote, be single. Be single. He said, this is why. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 from verse 32. Paul gives his why, and it's a beautiful why, honestly. I want you to be free from the concerns of this life. Let's just start there first. He says there's so much concerns about this life, but I want you to be free from it. Not like careless, but I want you to be free, to live in freedom from the concerns of this life. And he continued, an unmarried man can spend his time doing the Lord's work and thinking how to please him. Now, let me just stop here first. Being single is good. Being married is good. But then, none of it should be exalted above the other. It is good to marry if you want to. It is good to be single if you want to, but let it be a matter of your choice. And if you are single because you really want to marry and you've not seen somebody to marry, and now you stay crying and worrying and desperate, you are wasting that season. You're wasting being single. You are staying in a loop, waiting for somebody to pick you off the loop. Get off that hook. It is good. If you want to be single, make a choice. Now that I'm single, I'm contented. Let me please the Lord. With everything that I do, with my life, let me pursue the Lord. Let me live for the Lord. Let me choose to walk in purpose as a single man, as a single lady. Let me just finish the reading first before I go into this as I end. But a married man has to think about his earthly responsibilities and how to please his wife. His interests are divided. In the same way, a woman who is no longer married or has never been married can be devoted to the Lord and holy in body and in spirit. That is very important. But a married woman has to think about her earthly responsibilities and how to please her husband. I am saying this for your benefit, not to place restrictions on you. I want you to do whatever will help you serve the Lord best with as few distractions as possible. Now, if you get Paul's reason for endorsing and voting for singleness so much, he's saying marriage is not your purpose. Singleness is not your purpose. Pleasing the Lord is your purpose. And if being single will help you please the Lord best, embrace singleness. If being married will help you serve the Lord best, embrace being married. But all he's trying to say is, I want you to have as few distractions as possible. Because sometimes being single for some people can bring so much distraction to pleasing the Lord. Also, being married for some, because to every man their own, being married for some can be what brings that distraction that being single did not bring. Maybe you have kids to take care of, a husband to take care of, the husband have a family to take care of, this and that to take care of, the in-laws, extended family, and everything about the marriage. It is all about added responsibilities. As a single, you're already taking care of yourself, and then you can focus on serving the Lord. But then as a married person, you can say, okay, I have so much responsibility. I need to, of course, you are devoted to your wife and devoted to God. So Paul is trying to say, whatever will help you please the Lord, do that. But in all, he's trying to say, I'm not trying to exalt singleness above marriage. I'm just trying to make you see reasons for choosing either one. But don't waste any of the season. So single person or married person, if you're listening to this, get what I mean. Being single is not a disease. Being single is not a sickness. So the married people that keep making single people look like something is wrong with them, stop it. I would prefer married people come to single people and tell them, look, I know what being married takes. And if they don't come to you, please read Paul's words and take it serious to heart. He says, being married comes with a lot. So be prepared for it before you get there. It's not to scare you, but it's to tell you, get ready, because there are responsibilities involved. And being single can give you some lease to serve God. Of course, there is this other pressure of like, your body wants what it wants. And you're like, I have self-control. I can handle my body because My body is under my control. My body is under my subjection. It is my body. So let me discipline it to serve God. Like Paul said, I discipline my body. So discipline your body to serve God. Discipline your spirit to serve God. And don't take singleness for granted. Don't waste singleness. Nobody should take singleness for granted. If somebody wants to make this look like, oh, you're just trying to say this because you're single. No. Maybe you've not listened to it from the beginning. Maybe you've not really listened to me. You are hearing to respond. But if you really hear what I'm saying as a single man, I'm embracing being single with my whole heart. When I'm married, I'll be embracing that with my whole heart, with the responsibilities that come with it. Stop being desperate. Release the shame. Be yourself. Enjoy your life. Travel. Go out. Rejoice. Wear a good mood. Have a good circle of friends that you guys go out and just like chill. Stop all these, married people are peppering us. What are they peppering you? Well, I don't feel the same way though. Of course, I do have my urge and sexual frustrations, but that is their business. They're not peppering me. When I see loved up couples, I actually love it though. I'm like, whoa, yeah, it's an example. It's a good example to actually repeat when I get there. But it's not like, oh, I feel like, I don't know. I'm supposed to be down. It's supposed to be me. That is a wrong mindset to be in. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of the Godly Conversations. I'm going to just pause it here, but let me know, what are the struggles you are experiencing as a single person? Is this something we can talk about extensively? Is this something we can look at extensively? You could be single at 40, 50. People are there. But then, that shouldn't make you feel less than yourself. That shouldn't define you. Being single should not define you negatively. Being single should be a place that you know your worth. You know who you are. Because I know we live in a culture that likes to, throw shades, and almost like there's this stigma that when you get above 30, especially for women, that who is the man that is looking at you? That's rubbish. That's not God. That's not from the scripture. So just push that one side and be happily single till you get the one that is sent from God to you. And if you're yet to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Spotify, please do that now. It will be a pleasure of mine to have you subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment. Click the like button. It's going to help the YouTube algorithm share this video to many people. And don't also forget to share it to your friends. Let them know this is good ground. This is good content you can feed on. Thank you so much for watching, and I love you. Godly Conversations. We're saturated with so many voices, inundated in the midst of the noises. We need the truth to saturate our hearts. Yeah. In the midst of the noises, we need a buffer, the voice of reasoning. You speak to the culture, shining the light of the kingdom. We're here to curate a message of hope through a conversation. It's not lost on us. The divine God is with us. Yeah, God, Father, Son, and Spirit. The Spirit is my helper. Jesus Christ, my succor. Father is my anchor. Godly conversation brings transformation.